Coopers, Porsches, Fords, MGs, you name it. They're all out there. We've got the odd Lotus Le Mans and a Lotus 11 out there. Really looking forward to seeing that in action, and the odd Austin Healey. I've always been an Austin Healey Sprite man, and looking forward to the start of this one. The pace car will come back into the pit lane as they gather round turn 20 and now onto the main straight. And it will be Nathan Thompson who leads this field ahead of Travis Engen in the Lotus 23B to the left-hand side. Alongside him, and away goes the green flag, and away goes the racing here for our next race of SVRA. Up the hill they come here in the US Vintage National Championship. And immediately into the lead goes Nathan Thompson. And there's one of the young minis. I say young. There's one of the few minis in the group. Saw him practicing yesterday. One of two. There's the other one in the green and yellow.
I love that. I love that group of cars. You just can't get better looking cars than that. So I'll tell you something neat about this car we're watching here, this SVRA Blue Lotus 23B. There are 4 pedals because the steering column comes right between his feet. So he's got gas, brake, then he's got brake, clutch from right to left. So that he doesn't have to reach across the steering column, and it's really neat. He also has on his steering wheel a little thing. I thought it was his radio button. I was asking Doc Bundy about it, but it actually sprays a fine mist of water onto the brakes. So he can spray a fine mist of water through an air.
Just to cool them down?
Just to cool them down. They pull no punches at Rigogo Racing, and Nathan Thompson is a fantastic driver, followed by Travis Engen. And it looks like the Elva that started third is back at fourth now.
Now that must have been a modern addition, because you wouldn't have been able to have the sophistication of blowing a mist of water on them back in the day, would you?
I think sometime in the 70s they came up with that. Doc Bundy's liked it ever since.
Okay, I'll take it. Doc
Bundy, the legendary IMSA road racer, and we're so happy that he's recovered from COVID. He's had a tough go of it, but we were happy to see him back at the track.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Doc Bundy, a legend here.
Jim Gewinner, Lotus 23B coming around turn 12. And those cars, man, they're just so light. Colin Chapman designed those cars to be light. Add lightness was his phrase, and we've got 3 Lotus 23Bs out front right now.
Well, we often talk about the competition between the drivers and obviously the marques, but we don't often talk about the designers themselves, like Chaparral and like Dan Gurney, and of course Colin Chapman. These were the pioneers of the design side of these cars. Lest they not be forgotten, because Texas itself was high on that end with some great designers and some great innovators in their time. You wonder where the Gurney flap comes from? Well, it's here.
Yeah.
In the United States.
Yeah, and Jim Hall with Chaparral,
yes.
West Texas. Some history out there. I like that Elva, though. I love Lotus 23s, and I'm wishing that Graham Edelman or Owen Edelman were out here this year in theirs. But then we go to the more production cars right there. We've got Nicholas Clements followed. Look at this. So the Echidna just got that, American horsepower coming down, but then he's got the American weight of that horsepower through the twisty bits. And watch Kent Prather out here in that white MGA to try to get around John Nash as we watch the Toyota come up. The Toyota's got to get heat in his tires. He's got some downforce in that car. Marcus Pillion right there. There goes Kermit, the Frog Eye Sprite, but there's the car, that Lotus 11. They don't get much prettier than that.
That's a beauty, isn't it? Lotus 11.
Lotus Cortina. I love that. Look at the smile on that Bug Eye Sprite. As we see Lou Marchant right there in her MGA. I hope her daughter Julia, shout out to Julia, comes out and races with us. She also races a red MGA. So we've got mother-daughter that are going to be racing at CVAR and SVRA.
Yeah, Doug Radix, I just noted him going through in the 190 SL at Mercedes-Benz, 1955, and that was, of course, a remarkable year for Mercedes.
Yeah.
Because it was the same year, sadly, that they pulled out of motor racing, and now they may dominate Formula One, but few may know that they left motor racing for a long, long time after a big crash at the Le Mans race involving a Mercedes, and they, out of respect, decided that they would leave motor racing, and of course now they are right at the pinnacle again, and so an interesting year, 1955 for Mercedes-Benz, and we have a entry from that era in the 190 SL of Doug Radix. Look at this, 4 wide down the back straight here at COTA. Very different cars, very different marks, but all being competitive, but led by John Nash, side by side. Oh, he cut the nose off there, didn't he, of the 25?
Yeah, Willis Murphy, I think he thought maybe that and gave it to him, and Kent Prather pounces on that, takes advantage in that 26A MGA. Kent Prather is a several-time SCCA champion, so look for him to move up front. And then I love seeing Jeff Jonk, Jessica's dad, in that Austin Healey, the big Healey. We don't see many big Healeys unless we go up north to Road America, and sometimes there's 5 of those running with us. So I'm so glad that he's down here. His first time at COTA, always a great driver. Father-daughter out here racing with us, and he's racing a big Healey. Pretty cars, but we just don't see him very often in racing.
Nathan Thompson is off to the races, an 8.9-second lead over Travis Engen already. Jim Gewinner, as you mentioned, in 3rd position. Willis Murphy Jr. still in 4th. And Steven Steers in 5th place. There's that Mercedes I was talking about.
That's a pretty
beautiful car,
yeah,
isn't it?
I hope you get up close to that, because Doug really keeps good care of that. He's a Concours winning auto body restoration shop. He makes us some really cool trophies. And he's racing really well with Lou Marchant, SVRA racer, in that new livery for her, British Racing Green MGA, as we see Marcus Pillion and Jeff Jonk come up the hills, followed by Scott Frazier. Look at the smile on that bug eye. Then we've got the pumpkin.
Yes, it reminds me of my youth. Mum had a Triumph Spitfire. She'll be watching. I bet you enjoy that. She raced it pretty much harder than most of these guys as well. David Lee in the Austin Healey Sprite. That bright yellow with the black and red stripes. Heading down towards turn 2. And pursuing the number 76.
The livery on that car makes me want some McDonald's. And there's that Echidna. Only 3 exist and 3 are still racing. How cool is that?
That is, and it sounds good too. You can hear it as it goes through its paces and through the gearbox. Oh, smooth as you like. Love it.
So if you're wondering what that is, basically in the back of Popular Mechanics in the 50s and 60s, you could order a Devon body and you could order some chassis specs. So it's a chassis from a 1956 Chevy, he told me. It's a 1958 Chevy engine, I believe, a Devon body, and so it's called an Echidna.
Yeah, there was a lot of experimentation as well. I mean, obviously you've got the classic marks, but everybody was trying to find an advantage some way, some which way or other. So everybody was watching Europe and everybody was watching America and seeing how cars would develop. The Japanese were yet to come into play, but everybody starting to do some experimental stuff in the garages of California and elsewhere.
Kent Prather right there. Really good race car driver. Followed by Clements, Nicholas Clements, in that 1960 Porsche 356.
That's a pretty car too.
Bathtub, as we call it.
That's a bit rude.
No,
I know what you mean, but
they're called tubs. Even the 356 guys call them tubs. They look like tubs.
Beautiful.
It's the car that Tom Cruise was chased in on his motorcycle in Top Gun.
That's right.
Yeah, by Kelly McGillis.
There you go.
Nathan Thompson, a really good driver. He also drives an SVRA Blue Lotus Elite with us that he just recently sold. He's the mechanic at Ragogo Racing, but since Doc Bundy couldn't race, Paul Rago was kind enough to let him come out here, give us some more numbers. And Paul did a fish fry for everybody in the paddock last night, completely free. Brings in a chef from Key West, top chef, and he at his paddock and does a fish fry. So Paul and Ragogo Racing, Garen, we thank you guys for that. Thank you for entertaining our paddock and feeding everybody with some gourmet fish. Rob Davenport and his dad's 210 right there.
Yep, a 1973 Datsun. Back with the leader. Nathan Thompson hasn't looked back. Hasn't been challenged either.
And look at that. That's what vintage racing is all about. That's a future vintage racer. Got the earplugs on, making sure they're safe, but having a great time. Thanks for bringing out. We've got a lot of fans here that are wearing protection and practicing Safe 6, wearing a mask and staying 6 feet apart, but they're having a great time.
You've got to be careful when you say that. We've got a New Zealander cameraman out here. When you say Safe 6, he thinks it's something else, so you've got to be careful.
We welcome the Kiwi. That's a pretty car. Look at that.
Well, he's
Smooth.
brilliantly.
Look at, you can see his hands. Look at how smooth Nathan is.
Yeah, he's
And
not fighting it, is he?
No, you have to drive these cars very smooth, but that's going to, he's not scrubbing off any time because it's one corner, one turn for Nathan, doing a great job.
Well, coming up will be the final lap as we look at the all-orange 66A of Peter Claw. The Austin Healey Sprite. 1966. Good year, that. Willis Murphy in the Elva Mark 7S. It's great to see these historic cars not breaking down as well.
Yeah. Yeah, knock on wood. As a British car guy, I can say this. We don't see any lines of oil out there.
Nope. We don't need... we've got so many races to get through and so many competitors. Over 300 cars involved this weekend, guys. Incredible.
Oh, we got a race right here for second between Travis Engen and Jim Gewinner, both in Lotus 23Bs, equally yoked. Let's see if Travis Engen, with lap traffic coming around turn 2, can keep Jim behind him.
And you know their best laps, one a 2:34.9 by Engen and Gewinner getting a 2:34.6, so they're on identical pace. The leader now just having to side his way through traffic here. Oh, look at the body roll. Fantastic.
Yeah, there's a group of midget and sprite racers from SVRA who have all set up their cars to be very similar. So it's almost like a spec racing class in itself in SVRA with these little spridgets. Really fun to watch as we see the leader, Nathan Thompson, come around turn 11.
Yep, onto the back straight for the last time. He's got the Mini and the Sprite ahead of him. He'll get out of their way.
Because that's Robert McKenzie there in that Spitfire with the Mini having his own race.
You know, it's interesting. You look at that square-shaped Mini and you'd never think it was a racing car. But that's had so much success in the likes of Paddy Holkirk in rally terms back in the day. And, of course, Mini Series now. One-make Mini Series now in Britain. And those classic Minis are a handful, I can assure you. But great racing cars in their own way.
Oh, yeah. So well balanced. All four tires are in the four corners. Front-wheel drive. Lots of fun to drive. I've had many Minis in my life.
How do you get a Mini?
Actually, a buddy of mine that vintage races with us, we imported 6 from New Zealand. As we see that Elva come around turn 12, trying to give these midgets and spridgets a little bit of room. They saw them, and because they're in their own race, good friends from the SVRA group out here racing with each other.
So we've been watching Group 1, Group 3, Group 4 and 5B, their first race of the weekend. They'll have another chance to race again. But coming towards the checkered flag now is your leader, Nathan Thompson. He's led all the way, and he's just about to pop out of turn 20. Here he comes to take the checkered flag in what has been an immaculate performance and display of racing by Nathan Thompson in the Lotus 23B.
Oh, I think Travis just got it.
That was nip and tuck, and Engen just gets him. Quite rightly, the 23B Lotus of Travis Engen just pips Jim Gewinner, excuse me.
I got to say that Travis Engen better thank the GMT crew for putting his transponder up the front of his car. Because had that transponder been, at the steering wheel, he'd have lost that race. That was by inches.
That was literally .065. Nothing between those two. That is really impressive. So there's your winner in the beautifully painted bright blue
SVRA
Lotus
blue.
23B. SVRA blue, as you say, quite rightly.
Which I think is Ford Grabber blue.
Is that an official color?
Yeah, the Boss 302. Kind of Petty blue, Richard Petty blue.
Oh, okay, yep. So everybody gets to finish, and no real drama in that one, thankfully. Everybody's safely home, and they'll have a little tinker overnight, a little barbecue here at COTA, and enjoy the sunshine of what is a beautiful November day here in Austin, Texas. We welcome you from around the world, wherever you're tuning in to our coverage of SVRA. We've got Trans Am qualifying coming up later in the day, not that far away now. In fact, local time, we have the MX-5 race, their first feature race at 3:40 p.m. Central Time here in Texas. And then TA2 will be in action for their qualifying, a 20-minute qualifying session. TA at 4:30, and at 10 to 5, 4:50 local time, the XGT and SGT GT cars will qualify. Nathan Thompson then in the Lotus, a clean sweep of the podium for Lotus 23Bs, as Travis Engen and Jim Gewinner battling right to the very last few inches. Willis Murphy Jr. taking the Elva to 4th, Stephen Steers in 5th place, David Bowman in 6th in the Toyota, and John Nash in that lovely Lotus Super 7 in 7th place. Kent Prather in 8th position in the MGA, and the Porsche 356B Roadster of Nicholas Clements just ahead of Rob Davenport in that Datsun B210, taking 10th position for Rob.
When the road.
And like I said, they'll be in action again tomorrow.